Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. My name is Amir. For today's episode, want to do a quick preview of the Knicks versus the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are coming off 2 straight victories, and they host the New York Knicks tonight, which will be the toughest matchup of the season for the Miami Heat. And want to talk about some of the keys to the game, I think, for the Miami Heat in order to win this game. Right now, the New York Knicks are currently favored as road opponents. They're favored by 2, so it's -2 for the New York Knicks. The Knicks are coming into this game at 1-2. They lost their home opener and got blown out by the Boston Celtics, 132-109. They followed that up by a victory against the Pacers and blew them out, 123-98. And then most recently lost to the Cavaliers, 110-104. So they've had a tougher schedule compared to the Heat. The Heat have played the Hornets and the Pistons. And so the Knicks, early on, not a great start for them, but they still look like a pretty good team, especially on the defensive side. They're going to be a really good defensive team, adding Mikal Bridges onto this team. You already have Josh Hart. You already have OG Anunoby. So good defensive team. Offensively, they have been playing up and down as well these first few games. And I think that's going to turn up eventually. Jalen Brunson has been good, but not as good as he was last year. But again, it's only 3 games in the regular season. He's averaging like 22 points per game. I think he was averaging like 27 or 28 last season. And Karl Anthony Towns off to a slowish start offensively compared to the preseason. He's averaging like 15 points, but he's still averaging close to 11 rebounds. So key add there. And there's going to be a key matchup there tonight between Cat and Bam Adebayo. So in terms of what the Knicks need to do in order to win, which I hope they don't win, is they're going to need to prevent the Miami Heat from hitting threes. They're going to need to stop Jimmy Butler too as well. They do a really good job against Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler is not going to be able to hunt mismatches this game compared to other games versus other teams. And so it's going to be difficult. So I think they need to take away Jimmy Butler and they need to prevent the Miami Heat from getting open 3-point looks, in my opinion. But what the Miami Heat need to do, I think, in order to win this game is they need to win the battle between Bam and Karl Anthony Towns. So Bam Adebayo, we all know so far, has had a quiet season, especially offensively. He's averaging 11 points per game this season, which is 9 points or 8 points below his season average for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Bam's been averaging like 19 to 20 points in the past 4 years. So a little concerning to see, but we're in a new offensive scheme technically. Terry Rozier is healthy now. So the focus right now is getting to the rim and shooting threes. Bam has not been participating in shooting the threes at a high clip yet, has not made a single 3-pointer yet, which is fine. But right now we're kind of running the offense through Terry and Tyler, letting them do their thing. They shot 24 threes in the last game together combined. Jimmy Butler, the last 2 games, has been really good as well. So he's been a focal point. And so Bam hasn't really been a focal point offensively, but that can change. So we need him to win that matchup. Again, Karl Anthony Towns has struggled defensively. He doesn't have Rudy Gobert to bail him out anymore. So I think we need to show the world that he is not a good defender. And we need Bam to dominate that matchup tonight so that Bam can build that confidence from this game against a good team. And so we're going to need to see Bam win that matchup. And I think he can. Obviously, I think Bam is a better overall player right now than Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is obviously a very good offensive player, good rebounder. So we need to make sure that we can hold him in check and that Bam wins that battle. And I think that's going to be huge for the Miami Heat. The other thing we need to do is we need to slow Jalen Brunson down. He's had, again, a quieter start to his season, averaging 22 points per game. He's only shooting 36% from 3. I shouldn't say only because that's not bad, obviously, but they're not bad numbers by any stretch, but they're a far cry from what he was doing last season when he was like an MVP caliber type um, player last season. Again, like averaging 28 points per game. But Brunson has played very well against this Miami Heat team, even in the playoffs a few years ago when the Miami Heat beat the Knicks in that second round series. He is a really good player overall. Tenacious defender, not the best defender for an undersized guy, but he tries really hard. He makes tough shots. He's super clutch. So we need to be able to continue to slow him down and not allow him to get 30 plus points and carry this Knicks team to a victory. So just make sure he doesn't erupt. We've had players erupt versus this Miami Heat all the time. And we don't want him to hunt mismatches, which I think he's going to be guarded by a Terry Rozier, um, perhaps even a Tyler Hero. So hopefully those two can hold their own to a certain degree because it's going to be very tough to completely shut out a Jalen Brunson. The other piece I think that the Miami Heat need to focus on is rebounding. So again, rebounding and scoring. Those are the two biggest issues. So those are two things we need to worry about tonight is actually being efficient, hitting our threes, getting to the free throw line, hitting our free throws, but rebounding has been pretty bad for the Miami Heat. Not as bad as last year, but again, it's a small sample size. It's only 3 games so far, but we need to win the rebounding battle. The Knicks, surprisingly, are not a good rebounding team as well. So if we look at the team rankings real quick, one second, pull up my screen. So if you look at the rankings right now, the Heat right now are 29th in points per game at 105.7, which is horrendous. Last season, we were 27th in points per game at 109. Again, 3 games only, small sample size, but still, I see a pattern. I see a trend that this team struggles offensively compared to other NBA teams. So again, key to victory, score more points than the opponent. That's one thing. Rebounding right next to that. You can see it right here. Again, an issue. 22nd in rebounding. Last year they were 26. So, hey, we've improved so far. But 22nd in rebounding, 42.7 rebounds per game. We need to limit second chance opportunities and not allow the Knicks to get a ton of offensive rebounds and get those second chance points. So, rebounding, not great. You can see assists and steals. Those are 2 of our best categories. 27 assists per game. We're 9th. That's amazing. If we can get into the 30 range, it's going to be hard to beat this Miami Heat team when the ball is moving quickly. And we don't have Jimmy or Tyler or Terry pounding the ball and holding onto the ball too long and putting up tough shots. So we need to find each other and get each other into our, like, there's each player's spots, and we can get open shots, and that's going to help us win. But yeah, rebounding and scoring, those are the 2 areas that we need to work on. In terms of the Knicks, so the Knicks, I'm not sharing my screen, but I'm looking at their StatMuse stats. So right now they're 28th in rebounding, so they're actually worse than us. They're averaging 40 rebounds per game. So we better not. And again, it's early on. They're a pretty lengthy team, bigger than the Miami Heat, I would say technically. Especially when they get Mitchell coming back and Precious Achua are both going to be out tonight. But 28th in rebounding. We cannot allow them to beat us on the rebounding battle. Like I said, Josh Hart is a really great offensive rebounder for a smaller type guard. So they're a worse rebounding team than us. Points, they're 17th. So, of course, they're scoring 112 to our 105. So defense is going to be important for this Miami Heat team. We need to, obviously, again, like I said, stop Brunson mainly, and then Carl Anthony Towns are the 2 guys. I don't think we need to worry too much about Mikal or OG or Hart because those guys are going to be consistent and good, but they're not the stars of the team. They don't move the ball really well at all either. They're only averaging 20 assists. That's 28th. Steals 29th. Blocks 27th. So they've been struggling again. It's only 3 games for the New York Knicks, and they've played tougher teams than the Miami Heat. So this is going to be the biggest test again for the Miami Heat, and I'm hoping and predicting that the Miami Heat are going to win, even though they're underdogs at home tonight against the Knicks. But I'm going to pick the Heat winning, and I'm picking their season average. I tweeted this on Twitter or X. that the Miami Heat are going to win 105-101 tonight at home against the New York Knicks, against our, I guess you could say, rivals. I mean, obviously rivals in the late 90s and early 2000s, but I like to see the Knicks improve. Obviously, I don't want the Knicks to be a good team. They haven't won a championship since the 70s, which is amazing, which I love. But I want them to be good so that the Miami Heat can be good at the same time, and we can rebuild that rivalry, play them again, hopefully in the playoffs again, and beat them again, like we did 2 years ago. So excited for this matchup tonight. Again, it's going to be the biggest test for the Miami Heat early on the season. Let's see if Bam Adebayo can step up. Let's see if Tyler and Terry can continue to be a successful backcourt, and then let's see if Jimmy can continue to be engaged and hopefully beat a top team in the East. Our record versus top teams in the East and West last season, the top four, I think, in each conference, we were like 2-13 or something ridiculous. And the Knicks were number 2 in the East last season. So we need to beat them, and Jimmy needs to be engaged tonight. So anyway, those are my takeaways and my prediction for the game tonight. So thank you again for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.